The following is a presentation of the Tragically Hip podcast series.
Okay, we are officially into uncharted waters. We never do third ones. So let's see what happens.
Yer Hipstories, reflections from the final tour.
Hey, it's JD here, and welcome to Yer Hipstories, reflections from the final tour. It is August 3rd, 2026, and we are today looking back 10 years ago to August 3rd, 2016, day 2 in Calgary of the Man Machine Poem Tour. Today, around the table, we have got a panel of experts who were there live in Calgary, and they are here to share their stories and experiences with us today. Spencer from Calgary is back. How are you doing, Spencer?
I'm doing great. Can't wait to talk about the hip again.
Yeah, we're gonna do this. We're gonna totally do this. Julie from Calgary, how are you doing on this hiptastic day?
I'm doing wonderful, thanks. Thanks for having me, JD.
Yeah, it's gonna be fun.
I think so.
Yeah, no, trust me, it will. It'll be cathartic. It'll be emotional. It'll be the whole nine. But we'll try and have some fun in there. Keith from Calgary, what's up?
How you doing, JD? I was just scrolling through my calendar to see what day of the week August the 3rd landed on in 2016, and it was a Wednesday.
Oh, wild.
Yeah. Spencer, you were at the first show too, right?
Yeah, which was a Monday.
Which was a Monday. What's with Calgary and Monday shows?
We get ripped off.
We get so many
We get ripped off.
Monday shows. But at least we got a Wednesday show to go along with the Monday show.
Yeah. Julie, we'll start with you. What is the first thing that comes to mind when you think of Calgary 2?
Say that again?
When you think of Calgary Night 2, what is the first thing that comes to mind?
The first thing that comes to my mind, I think, is just that we were excited to go to the concert. We understood the significance, but I hadn't seen them. I hadn't seen the Tragically Hip since 1997, so it had been a long time for me. I went from being a student to being a grown-up, from being everything ahead of me to seeing someone I really liked have something very difficult ahead of them. So I think that's probably, I had a lot of different emotions, but the first one was excitement for me.
Keith, how about you? Excitement as well?
Well, full disclosure, so Julie and I are married, and we went to the show together. And we went with her parents, and we were still dating. We weren't yet married when we went. And in fact, Julie reminded me that the tickets were a first date anniversary present. Is that right, Julie?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
So I was excited to go, partly obviously because I was excited about the gig, but I was excited to go because I was dating this new girl, and it was the first anniversary of us dating, and and we were going with her parents, and it was all that part was very exciting too.
I bet. Wild. Spencer, was night 2 different for you than night 1? Because we've heard your night 1.
Yeah, night 2 was definitely different. I went with some friends instead of family. Chose some real music lovers who are some really old friends where we've bonded over music, like our entire friendship, and even 10 years later, we're still weekly sending music to each other, going to concerts together, that kind of thing. So
yeah,
that's the first thing I think about when I think about Calgary Night 2. And of course, that was my third visit on the tour, and the last time I'd see them live. So, it does have that finality somewhat in the final time I'm actually going to see them live. I mean,
Yeah.
the good thing is that we had that final show coming up that we were all going to watch. And so at least I had that in the back of my mind. But I mean, to experience the Hip live is an experience like no other. And that was the final time I got to have that experience. So that definitely sticks out of my mind.
Absolutely. Like to be in the room, you know, to just be in the same room with them and vibe with what they're putting out. That is otherworldly, you know, it's otherworldly, quite frankly.
Well, I think for a lot of Hip fans too, they become fans. They like the band quite a bit when they hear the albums, when they hear the songs on the radio, but when they go to see the band live, especially for the first time, it's transcended to a larger, more intense experience where, you know, you just keep on going back to the, oh, but I saw them live and they were so good. And it's hard to capture that necessarily when you're listening to just the regular album. And so to know that you'll never capture that essence again, and like you said, be in the room and feel that again, it's pretty sad.
Yeah.
Not only that, but I mean, for those who had seen the band a number of times, you know, before, like I've seen them from small club to outdoor festival to big arena show, then back down to smaller venue shows. So to see them back in, you know, like selling out, you know, couple of nights in a row, the Saddledome, I felt proud for them in a way. You know, I felt, you know, that they were just.
The country showed up. Everyone showed up.
Right?
They could have sold out 10 shows.
Right. So it was you know, a great way to experience the, you know, them kind of at their heyday for one last time, right?
Mm-hmm.
Heck, they could have done stadium shows. They could have played every CFL stadium across the country. Now there would have been less states potentially, but
Yeah.
you know, they absolutely could have filled it. Julia was just saying, you know, they could have filled 10 shows in Calgary, or, you know, 10 in Toronto, or wherever.
Yeah.
And then they didn't even make it out east. You know, there's still Maritimers that are so, you know, broken up about the fact that they didn't get there one last time.
Yeah.
I mean,
So-
imagine at that point there's only so much gas in the tank for them, right?
I think when they were planning it out, they had no idea, right?
Yeah.
Like absolutely, they had no idea, and that's why there's the days between every gig.
Mhm.
But I have it that if they had known that he was going to be as healthy as he was, they would have done more.
Yeah.
Like I've heard rumblings of that.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Maybe not many more, but you know, like maybe 4 more. Buffalo. I've heard Buffalo. I've heard Halifax. So,
Mhm.
you know,
Makes sense.
There would have been the appetite for it, for sure.
oh my goodness, my goodness.
And sometimes having that escape, it seemed like it just went somewhere else. It was like everybody was kind of out of body that whole time. And I think it might have fueled him, Gord, and his health by doing it. He stopped thinking about being sick and just was thinking about what filled him with so much happiness and pleasure and joy. And I think he got that energy from the crowd. The crowd got energy from him. And it was this collective bubble of something that's hard to explain when you were in
Sure
that
seemed
arena
that way.
watching them. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm with you 100%, Joey. It sure seemed that way. That he was just slurping that energy, you know, from these passionate fans. And well, let's go back in time now. Let's go back in time 10 years ago. And Keith, we'll start with you. Where were you when you got the news of Gord's terminal illness and the announcement of the Man Machine Poem Tour, which were, I think, Spencer, we talked about it on your show, which were essentially like a day apart.
Were they really?
Wow.
It was like a day or two apart, the announcements.
That I don't remember. I do remember the morning that I got the news, like when I woke up in the morning.
Right.
And I must have seen the news on the television, and I was, or I can't remember how the news came to in the morning, and I was working for a bank at the time, and I decided in favor of the shirt and tie. I was going to wear a hip shirt underneath my suit jacket, which today would be pretty normal, but 10 years ago that would have been different. And I remember I had some client meetings, and I initially had some reticence about, being nervous about it. And I said, you know what, if these people judge me or are off put by me wearing a hip shirt today, then they shouldn't be clients of mine. We're just obviously not good fits for each other in the first place. And actually those clients and I have bonded over that fact, as well. So, So I do remember that about the day that, I got the news that Gord passed away. As for, when the tour was announced or getting tickets, I don't really remember that. However, I do have our paper tickets.
Oh, that's wonderful.
From the show.
Oh, those are great souvenirs.
So, 185 well-spent smackaroos on some. We were uppers, but they were great upper level. About as good upper level seats as you can get. Sort of mid dome. I think row 3 or something or other like that. So, those were our tickets.
No complaints about where you were. No
complaints about where we were for sure.
And it's the music anyway. You're there to, you're there to hear. You're going to hear it first, if that makes sense.
But even though I think that,
component.
Even thinking back on what was a concert experience like 10 years ago, it's changed pretty dramatically. Like I've looked at a few photos and some videos of a couple of videos from the show. And today, for instance, if they were playing their encore, I watched a video from how they ended the show, which was with Courage. And if that was today, you'd just have seen a sea of phones, right?
Right.
But you saw some phones, but not like today. It was different going to a concert experience before phones and social media, right? It was more connected. It was tighter. It was more present.
Communal.
Yeah, definitely.
A little more communal, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I remember when I found out about it, I remember talking to my mom because I don't think I'd ever heard the word glioblastoma before. And I said to her, I can't believe the news. And because my mom is also a big music fan. And she told me that my grandma's brother passed away from that type of cancer. So it was the first time I'd heard of it. And then I found out that someone close to me, he had passed away before I was born, but someone in my, pretty immediate family had that type of cancer. So it kind of connected. It felt a little more important to me hearing that that's what he had.
Mm.
Yeah, the tie there would be devastating, really.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And I mean, I don't know if most Canadians knew of that type of cancer, but to me, I think about it now, and 10 years ago, I mean, I am the age that Gord Downie was 53, I'm 52. Like, this is how old he was when he had to deal with that news. Mm-hmm. And it seems more real to me being that age now. I can't imagine having the profession he had and doing what he did with a family and so much life that should have been ahead of him and having to deal with that and then make that decision. And that's kind of where my mind went when I heard the news. And then I heard about the tour. It was like, how can you do it? I just couldn't. It was hard for me to reconcile how brave, courageous, crazy. I mean, a million, I could describe it in a million ways, but
Right.
I couldn't believe that this was happening. And I just knew, like I said, I hadn't seen them since 1997. It's not that I wasn't a fan of theirs anymore. I just had evolved and was doing other things, listening to other bands. I would come back to them, but then they became very, very important to me during that time.
Yeah, I think you really nailed it with the word how. I think that went through every Canadian's mind, every Tragically Hip fan. How could they do this? How could they go on tour? There's so many things that could go wrong. That was just something that, we obviously were hoping for answers for. And do you guys remember the app Periscope?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It was an app where you could zoom in on an area and people were broadcasting from their phones, and you could tune into their phone and see what was going on. And I remember when the tour was announced and night one was happening in Victoria, I remember I was at a bar in Calgary and I was so nervous for the band and the tour and how it was going to go. And I was getting anxious, and I was on Periscope. I remember like tuning into somebody's phone that was there, and just seeing Gord go on stage and sing the first song. I remember the first like words out of his mouth. I was just like, a huge sense of relief came over me.
Yes.
Okay, they're actually able to do this.
Yeah.
Gord can sing. He's capable. He's doing really well. I was so thankful for the people, whoever was at the show. Very limited. There was probably only 2 or 3 broadcasts going on from the stadium, and they'd only last a few minutes here or there. But you could tune in, just see a little bit of what was going on. And that was such a sense of relief, because you didn't know how it was going to go every single night.
So true. And when that documentary came out last summer, we all kind of learned how scary it was for them as well. They all didn't know how it was going. It was a black box to all of us fans, but to the actual band, they really were nervous.
Yeah,
Anything
which makes
could have
sense
happened before.
Why they always would start every show tight in together on the stage, like they were there to support each other if anything were to go wrong. And then as they felt more comfortable throughout the night, they'd spread out, turn it more into a rock show. But I love how they started every night, just showing that they're a solid, connected band, supporting each other, and literally back to back having each other's back. That was
Did
awesome.
you see the little Gord Sinclair video that was released earlier this week? He actually describes the reason they did that, Spencer from Calgary, is that it was representative of their career. They played on a small stage, and then they grew outward, and they they were fortunate enough to get to play big stages. So it was that. But I also do think the idea of when they were on those small stages, they were looking out for one another in a different way. When you're a big arena band, you've got people that are paid to look out for you, that aren't the band. But in this case, they're all set up. Okay, what did you get up to the day of the show, Keith?
Well, just one more thing on that last topic.
Sure.
Just about how they started the show. So yes, they would always come together to start the shows, but they reinforced that with I remember the lighting. So just black and white lighting for those first 4 songs, right?
That's right.
No fancy lighting, and they always focused on early catalog in those first 4 songs as well, to get in the pocket and just draw on that muscle memory. I think partly for Gord too. So anyhow, that's just about that. I remember really vividly that it was unexpected, at least, way to start a show, but it was really effective.
Totally.
Amazing.
It wasn't this grandiose production, but the fact that they put some time and thought into it. And at the break with the thunder and the lightning, like there was some really cool stuff. The countdown clock.
It was really well. It was really well executed. Really well.
Yeah.
Like from a production standpoint, really well done.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So going back to the other question, the day of, what do you remember about the day of the event?
I was working that day. I mean, it was a Wednesday, so we didn't have the luxury that some of the other
Right.
cities had of a weekend. But the people I went with, Alan Chantel, they're such good friends of mine. We have spent so much time at the Saddledome together. We were Hitman season ticket holders for 10 years. We've been to a ton of hockey games together, a bunch of concerts there. Any special event, we were always there together. And we'd always go park over on 10th Ave and make free parking over there and make the 15-minute walk into the dome. And so we definitely did that night before meeting up at the same spot and making the same walk that we'd done just hundreds of times before that.
Oh wow. I love that you were with a community, right?
Yeah. Same with me. I worked downtown. It was a beautiful sunny day, and I think Keith and I walked from downtown. We met my folks for dinner at a restaurant that's probably not even there anymore. We'd never eaten at before then or since then. And I just remember that walking with all those people in, and I think it was not an excited crowd, but it was a like that cautiously optimistic crowd. There had been a few concerts already, so we knew they had happened, but everyone, it was a muted, it wasn't a celebration, but it was a muted moment. It was definitely, you're walking not to a hockey game, not to a normal concert. You were walking into something that you weren't sure what you were walking into. That's the feeling that I remember that day.
That is fascinating.
I do remember a lot of excitement, though. I remember, when there's that electric feeling in the air, like when you're, about to do something, right? I do remember it wasn't somber.
It wasn't somber.
It was there's definitely, it was definitely electric. There's, a lot of excitement kind of on the walk to the dome.
Yeah, I texted my friend Al to ask him what he remembered from the night, and he put it pretty succinctly. He said, "It's such a distant memory, but I can still remember the emotion from the night. It was heavy but celebratory. Like we all knew what was happening, but we chose to live in the moment." That's pretty much exactly what you guys just said, and I thought he kind of nailed it right on the head there.
Yeah,
you knew what was going on, but let's for tonight have a good time and be in the moment.
Oh, that's beautiful. Yeah. So the first song of the night for you guys, well, let's actually pull up the set list.
New Orleans is sinking.
You guys all remember it, but bam, New Orleans is sinking.
Yeah.
So you're starting with Up to Here in the sequencing, and you get a nice selection from Up to Here. And then, of course, they go into their new record for 4 songs, which they've been doing. You guys were very lucky. I got this song as well at my show in Sarnia. Beautiful. For you guys, are there any songs that really jumped out to you that night that maybe you heard in a different way than you'd ever heard before?
For me, I think the beginning, the first set was incredible, and it just felt like I was at a concert. And then, or after that break, I think for me it got really real when the song Scared came on, and that was the first time that I noticed any type of crack or emotion or change and shift. And that's where him being sick and the reality and the gravity, I feel like there was an energy shift. It got a little more primal, a little more emotional, and everyone kind of got more. That's where I started seeing arms around each other, and I started to see a shift in the crowd and the people and how people were receiving what he was giving.
Yeah, and then a couple songs later with "It's a Good Life If You Don't Weaken." I personally, I think that's the first time I heard that song, and it's the first time they played it on the tour. And
that's awesome.
That's where I remember it really tipping towards some emotion. You know, that's when you looked around and saw lots of tears in people's eyes.
Yeah, I remember during Scared, I think they had the lights up really high. I feel like you could see everybody in the crowd. You know, when he's talking about, you know, I'll make you scared. And he's talking to the crowd. I feel like I remember seeing all their faces.
Mhm.
And a song for me that stood out was Opiated. The second song that they came out with. I don't know how I missed that the early years of my hip fandom, but I really became obsessed with that song, especially in the last couple of years prior to that final tour. So to see them play that, especially in KITE as a band, you know, just the white lights on them, you know, that song kind of deals with death and is a little bit dark. I thought it was such a groovy, you know, song to be playing, especially up front. That one really stood out.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I would say for me, you were very fortunate to get some of these songs. I see Throwing Off Glass here. Might not be your personal favorite, but it's a deep, deep cut. And to get to see that on the final tour, and then followed with Dire Wolf, which is my favorite closing song. Like, I like it better than The Dark Canuck now. Like, and for the longest time, I loved the ending of that record, but now it's Dire Wolf all the way. You guys got a really tremendous show. Are there any other standouts for you?
Well, Dire Wolf was debuted on that at that. It hadn't been played in the previous 5 shows either, I guess. 5 shows before that. Yeah, they debuted it in Calgary, and I agree with you. It's it's now definitely a favorite of mine.
Yeah, for me, I think the other one would have been Ahead by a Century. The next year, we actually had it for our wedding song. During the concert, it just hit a little different for us, and I think that's still one of my favorites.
I forgot about that, Julie. Yeah.
I had Ahead by the Century played at my wedding as well, as she was walking down the aisle. Yeah, the violin version was awesome.
Or such a good song.
Yeah. Use It Up is a great song off of Inviolate Light. According to Setlist of FM, it was the first time they had played it in 10 years. I love that song, so it was great to hear them play that one live. I don't love Throwing Off Glass. I would have maybe preferred Silverjet instead. But it's such a rare, deep cut. You know, it's kind of cool to hear. And then the final 4 songs that they go through, Bob Cajun, Poets, Wheat King, and Courage. I feel like those are like 4 of the best songs to sing along to. How like the crowd was just belting it out. All of them are emotional songs. They have a lot of meaning behind them. Such good sing-alongs to end.
Agreed.
What about the vibe in the building? I'm specifically, I want to target Julie on this one because, you know, like you had that experience outside the arena and coming into the arena. What was it like indoors, like during the show and specifically after?
Well, I kind of feel like everyone understood what a privilege it was to receive what we were getting, and it wasn't lost on anyone there. Everyone just became one, and for one night, there's very few nights in your life where everybody is connected, positive, happy, loving, sad. You could have hugged anyone in there. You could have kissed anyone in there. It would have been accepted. And they did that. They disarmed everyone to be good for one night. And it was for something bigger. It just felt bigger than we all were. And people were grieving him and probably other big things in their life that they'd lost, hope. It was just so emotional, but in a very cathartic, healthy, non-gratuitous way. It was very real. And I hate saying this because it sounds so cheesy, but it was so Canadian. And it felt it just made you feel so good and feel so lucky to have been there. That's and sitting in the upper tier, which we don't typically do. We're usually on the floor, in the pit, but we got to see it all around us. And that was also so special to witness, so many people around us. And at the end, no one wanted to leave because it was just this collective, I don't know, moment that we all had together that just felt really special. And he gave us that when he was sick. And it's just mind blowing.
It's unfathomable. Like, really, truly, you're right, mind blowing. That he was able to pull through like that, and those 5 guys were able to lift us up when we needed it most. Keith?
Well, so I remember after the encore, the band came out, and the band did a bow, and do you remember Gord would kiss all of the members on the lips as they left the stage, right? So I remember that, and then the lights came up, and it was just Gord, and they, so he was, down on stage, but they also had him up on the camera, on the big screen, and we've all been to lots of shows, and we've seen when artists get ovations afterwards. But this was an ovation that just didn't stop. And, as an artist, you're up there and you're, just getting all this love poured at you. And he's looking at the crowd. And I remember him saying, "Calgary, you're a beautiful city and you are all beautiful people." And it was just, I'd never, ever felt an artist connect with his audience as closely as that night, and the audience giving that connection back to him and each other. It just was it was unique. It's nothing. It's like no show I've ever been to before.
Yeah, and it was authentic. It was authentic.
It was totally real, man. There was it was present. It was real. It was authentic. It was in the moment. It was all the things that it was all this.
Yeah, how many times would Gord look at somebody directly in their eyes, smile at them, move on to the next person, wave at them, move on to the next person. It was like he was looking at all of us individually, trying to absorb it all. Then he'd go over to the next part of the stage and, look at other people. It's just incredible to see him try to soak it all in, knowing that that was his last performance in Calgary, a place that he had performed, tens of times before. Pretty awesome to see him absorb all of that.
It's really interesting to flip the perspective like that, Spencer. I think that's a really cool thought. Here we are getting to see them for the last time and experiencing that, and they're experiencing something, remarkably similar. They're, like Robbie Baker says in the doc, there was no gold watch. There was, that was, we played Kingston and we hung up our guitars, and that's it. That's all.
You know what I always noticed about Grace 2 and the way they sang it? It was always a thermometer for where the band was at, right? If they were in the jam band kind of mood, the song would go on forever. If he was in a creative mood, he would be singing cover songs in the middle of it, or he would be, developing his next song. Or if it was 35 degrees out and he's playing an outdoor show, he's ranting about how the water is the same temperature as his lips and he can't tell the difference. And that night, his Grace 2 performance, I remember it being so obviously emotionally charged, but when he gets to those lyrics near the end, the him, here, now, what, he's literally just screaming it. He's letting out all of his emotions. He's exerting all of his energy into it. And I kind of feel like it's exactly how he left every city. They would play for 3 straight hours with a few awesome costume changes here or there, but they would lay it all out on the line every single night and really made you feel like they had exhausted everything they could as a rock band. And they definitely did that night with Grace too. I remember how good and powerful it was.
What a song.
Yeah.
You don't have to. Nope, it slipped my mind. So that's not important. But what is?
Well, I just
just
to jump in.
Oh, sorry, yeah.
JD, I just wanted to say, even just talking so much about Grace too. I mentioned in the pre-record, I've got a 1.5-year-old, and her name is Grace. Obviously based on that song.
That's pretty cool.
Cool.
That is very cool.
Even 9-10 years later, that name, that song is obviously still sticking with me.
Yeah. Oh, that's lovely. Well, the question I was going to ask you, Spencer, though, is about the costumes. About, like we had never seen Gord look this way ever before. And, here a week earlier, we saw him walk out in Victoria, and he sort of blew our fucking minds. Like, what is this? By the time we get to Calgary, too, everyone's sort of used to it. But I have to think that you have some sort of reaction. What were you thinking?
Well, I remember from past shows how sweaty Gord would get. He would be drenched in anything that he was wearing. Even if he was wearing a black shirt, it would slowly fade darker with his sweat throughout it goes. When I saw him in that big outfit, I was like, he must be sweating a crazy amount. It must be hot in there. But then I also had the opinion of like, this is exactly what he wants to wear. He wouldn't be wearing it if it wasn't his choice. And it made me feel really good for him that he was able to come out in something so eccentric and be like, this is me. This is what I want to wear. This is what makes me feel comfortable. Like, and I have it in 8 different colors. So get used to it.
Julie, how
And
about
the
you?
hat. Remember the hat.
Yeah.
This is Lilliput hats, right?
Mm-hmm.
This is where he wore and kind of made famous those hats and the feather
Absolutely
in his hat. Which I know is really special symbolically for Julie.
Yeah. Well, the outfits, I mean, I became obsessed, and I have a terrible memory. And I remember asking Keith the other day, and I said, what? I've seen so many pictures of this tour online, and I create versions of the world in my head that aren't always real, but I can't. Was his outfit gold in Calgary? Was it silver in Calgary? Who remembers the color of his suit in Calgary? Spencer, do you?
Well, he would have had a few outfit changes. So I want to say I remember purple pants with a silver top, but I think that even changed a few times throughout the show. I can't fully remember.
I looked it up because I was kind of curious if there was a story behind the outfits other than him just loving a fun look, a funky, super funky look. But from what I read is he adored David Bowie and adored his, panache and love of experimenting with looks. So that's what I've heard was a kind of one of the reasons that he went for it during this last tour. And I think that's super, super cool if that's a true story.
Oh, I love that. I hope it is. Mm-hmm. In my headcanon is sort of like it was to sort of just alleviate the elephant in the room. It's like, I'm going to walk out on stage and this is the way I look, and you're not going to think about Gord Downie's brain cancer.
Yes.
You're going to think, what the hell is this guy wearing, and why is he still so awesome?
Totally. They'd be wear the most outrageous thing to kind of mask how it's a shell. It was a little bit of a shell for him. Exactly. Like the elephant in the room. I love that.
Yeah.
Well, and I think he popularized in Canada the Jaws t-shirt.
Oh, absolutely.
Right.
There's been more Jaws t-shirts sold in the last 10 years than probably in the previous 30.
And I've bought like 4 of them, so I'm contributing to it because it's cool.
Upstairs.
He finished the show, I believe, in his Jaws shirt and silver pants.
Mm-hmm.
But you know, that was that. And I've seen the Jaws shirt made into dresses
Yeah.
since.
Really?
Friend of ours made it into a dress one year, for you know, when she sang for, you know, with her band.
It'll be Canadian lore. What color leather did he wear in what city on what day? It'll become trivia, like Canadian
That is deep
Trivial
trivia.
Pursuit.
I think
Somebody
everybody
needs to
will
have
now
a spreadsheet.
basically everybody would associate now, you know, that Jaws T-shirt with,
Yeah.
you know, Gord and Final Tour.
And not
feel I need
swimming in the
to-
water in the lake in the summer. We won't be as afraid when we see that shirt.
I
I feel
just
as though I need
realized
to
now.
look this up and have these stats at hand for when people ask.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't remember. In my mind, I remember, but I'm sure it's not true.
I just realized now that, you know, after those concerts, my mom is big into painting, and she asked me, or I asked her to paint a picture from that night. And there he is with his Jaws T-shirt on.
Oh, wow.
I have this
talented.
very talented. I have that in my basement. I should have had it in my background.
Yeah.
It wasn't my picture, obviously, because that was way too close. I was way farther away. But that's what you were right, Keith. That's exactly what he was wearing at the end of the show, because we grabbed a picture from that night, and she painted it and just did an amazing job at it. So it's still in my house.
Yep.
Yeah, I think that's very cool.
Yep.
Well, here we are 10 years later now. What have you thought about in the previous 10 years that has maybe changed your perspective of the show? Or has your perspective changed in any way? Keith?
Well, this might sound like hyperbole, but in a lot of ways, that show changed my life. Because, you know, it launched something in my life that's become quite special and important in my life. And I don't think that would have happened without that last show. So I can truly say it changed my life in a way that I could never have dreamed of, 10 years ago.
Well, why are you bearing the lead here? You can tell us about you and Julie both can share how this has changed your life.
Well, Julie's
very important.
Julie's, probably better positioned to do this given her title as co-founder of GEDfest, which Spencer refers to Gord and Edgar Downie Fest, which is a music event that Julie and I created together after the show, and it's now become a pretty big part of our life.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me more about that. Is that an annual thing that happens, and where?
The most disappointing thing, Spencer, is that you have not heard of GEDfest.
Yeah, we failed, Spencer.
We have failed incredibly, because this year will be the 9th GEDfest in Calgary. We've sold out the Palace a couple of times. Last year we sold out the Big Four. This is not a new event. It's the tagline is celebrates the life and legacy of Gord Edgar Downie and the music of the Tragically Hip, and is a charity.
While also giving back to.
That's right, and is a charity event that raises money for local cancer-related charities that we've started to spread across Canada. It started in Calgary with our couple of shows that we did. And, this year we'll have events in 12 cities around Canada, trying to emulate the Terry Fox run, but often, as I described, with a different hero in the story, Gord versus Terry, in a different context, a rock concert versus running. And JD's been a friend of GEDfest's for a while now. And like I said, that show is what inspired us to do this.
That's cool.
And so I can truly say it's changed. That show changed my life.
Wow, that's amazing. My sister has been greatly impacted by cancer in her life, and she actually runs a local charity called Helping Families Handle Cancer, and it's all about families whose child is going through cancer, and just kind of helping them pay their bills and stuff like that. So cancer has a big spot in my heart. Obviously, Gord has a big spot in my heart. I don't know how I've missed this over the last 9 years, but now that we're all friends, I'll definitely make sure I make it down. And I'll be contacting you guys later about a sponsorship. I could throw some stuff in. I own a company in Calgary. We'll be able to throw a bunch of gift certificates in for services and hopefully raise a little bit more money.
October 17th is it's the anniversary of his passing, and this year it actually happens to be, October 17th is the Saturday, which actually happens to be the anniversary of him leaving us. And we're having our first show in Toronto on October 17th as well at the Horseshoe. That JD's helping us stick handle. So it's a community that it's a community that I'm really, really proud to be, a member of, and so you got a, front row VIP seat to GEDfest this year, Spencer, that's for sure.
You got it. We'll definitely stay in contact.
Yeah, definitely.
Love this.
We didn't want to hijack things,
Community
JD.
coming together. You didn't
I
hijack
didn't want to hijack
the
things.
freaking thing, man.
Yeah,
That's
right.
no, we were going to be talking about that at some point anyway. Why not talk about it now?
Sure.
But we were talking about 10 years on, and Keith, that was something that you said changed your life. I'm going to guess, Julie, your answer is similar, or do you have a different perspective in terms of, what you've taken away this last 10 years and how you've,
Well, I echo what Keith said. GEDfest for sure has changed my life, but since 10 years ago, both my mom has had cancer and been treated with cancer. Keith's mother has had cancer, survived cancer. Gord Downie's experience was the first one in a long time of someone I knew that was sick, or I didn't know him, but someone in my life, in my world, that got sick and died of cancer. And it really, stuck with me that even though I was in my early 40s at the time, people can get sick. People can get sick. They can suffer. They die. And if we all just sit back and let all that happen and just watch it, then what's to stop it from happening to me and you and you and you? So it really, it kind of lit a spark under Keith and I that we all have the ability to do something, live our lives, live for today, do the things, say the things, and just really start living your life, because you don't know when your number's up.
Well said.
Yeah.
Spencer, how about you, buddy?
How am I supposed to follow that up? Those were two great,
I don't know.
life-changing stories.
Well,
I thought it was a great concert, and then I moved on with my life. No, I'm just kidding. I don't know if there was anything from that night that was, life-changing or, extremely important to me. But that whole tour obviously was extremely emotional and meant a lot to me. This was a band that a lot of us got behind a long time ago, and you don't know how it's going to end, and the fact that they ended on this miraculous tour that meant so much to so many people and had us experience so many emotions over that time. There's nothing else to say besides it's just incredible that they allowed us the opportunity to embrace them one more time before they moved on. I don't know if there'll be a band, especially in Canada, that's going to rival them. What they were able to do live and their consistency and their longevity and what they meant for hip fans and Canadians, it's just unmatched.
Agree.
Yeah. Agreed.
Agree. We were very, very lucky. Like at the end of our life, there's going to be lots of things that we feel are the gifts that we were given, but that was a really big one. We got to experience that before the internet. We got to experience that before, like Keith said earlier, phones. It's our memories, the people we were with that we can reminisce and remember and probably change it up a little bit in our minds, but it was different. It was special for all of us, and we were given that gift.
Yeah, and I can't see. It just isn't something that could be replicated. You know, it's just it's once in a lifetime. I can't see an artist, a band being, received by its fans and a country in the same way that the Hip were on that tour. There's no picture you could paint for me that seems realistic, to replicate it. And like Julian Spencer said, I just feel really fortunate to have been part of it.
Yeah, it was a special thing.
It's a moment in Canadian history, right?
It is.
Yeah.
Yeah, they'll be talking about it. They'll be talking about it for a good long time.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a good thing. Spencer, if you could take one moment from that night and create a postcard, what would it look like?
Yeah. Man, I really liked the visual that Julie was giving about Scared and the way that he was singing to the crowd. I feel like that could be a perfect postcard of the night.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Julie, how about you?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it would be, I think some kind of visual, like I said earlier, it was a bubble. It was a bubble of love. And I wish we could, you can't create those, but I wish there was more of those in the world, especially right now.
Yeah, I agree. Keith?
Well, we probably all remember or are familiar with that picture, the salute, which is Gord at Kingston and him from behind, handkerchief in his back pocket, and you can see the crowd, some members of the crowd. Yeah. So my postcard would be, because I remember, again, once the band had left the stage and, he was getting this massive ovation, the house lights were up so you could see the crowd. Gord's on stage, a small figure, but, the big video of him giving thanks to everyone in a lit stage. And just, if you could zoom in on all those people and see what they're doing, hugging each other and, crying and laughing, that would be my postcard. It would be, back of the dome, lights up, every single person on their feet, nobody having left, right? Place jam-packed still. That'd be my postcard. Him giving thanks as much as, the audience giving thanks to him.
Yeah.
What a give and take. What a give and take it was. Yeah. Good grief. Final thoughts on Calgary Night 2, August 3rd, 2016. Round the table. We'll start with you, Julie.
Oh, it was, top 10 memory. I will remember that day. I will think of that day for the rest of my life. It was incredible. It was a privilege to be there. It was really incredible. I feel very fortunate that I got to be in that environment and experience that, all those emotions. And I'm like, I can feel all those emotions right now, even thinking about it.
It's tough to stay away from them sometimes.
Yeah.
When we get talking about this stuff.
Yes.
It really is.
Yeah.
It was. You mentioned earlier the word cathartic. Like it was and remains. You know? Spencer?
Yeah, I mean, final thought includes, I always heard that Springtime in Vienna was Gord's favorite song, and he played it that night. So I just think on his final night in Calgary, he went out singing what he wanted to sing, and that one's for Gord.
Love it. Keith?
Well, Julie's got the concert poster over her left shoulder, so I'm, that's we got that mounted. That was towards the start of my concert poster collection, fanaticism, but it's just a core memory, right, that I'll have with me forever. Yeah. Right? And in a celebratory way, it's kind of like, we remember days like, 9/11, where we were, and what we were doing. We remember days like the Challenger, when we were kids. And that show is the similar kind of core memory for me.
Yeah, it's, again, to use the word, maybe I'm overusing it, but it's a communal memory. It's something, like you said, maybe couldn't happen today, even with the same band, because of technology. But there was like a true connection that people had with the people 3 rows down, 5 rows across, on the frickin' stage for sure. We just had such a great connection. Now, I would be remiss if I didn't ask each of you, while I have you here, what you were doing on August 20th. How did you commemorate that show?
Yeah, I brought the people I went to both concerts with, and maybe a few others over to my house at the time, and I have such good memories from that night. We had smoked ribs, corn, homemade pierogies. I had just moved into a house a few months ago, so I had a brand new TV set up and big surround sound speakers. And we had a rule: if you came through the front door, you were focused on the Tragically Hip that night. No side conversations, no talking about work, no whatever. You're focused on the hip and enjoying that. And we were blaring the music in our house. It was incredible. And I remember my neighbor, I never really got along with. He was just like a little bit of a grumpy guy. And I remember walking outside and seeing him in the backyard with all of his buddies. Post-show, they were obviously inside watching it, and it's like, wow, you can even connect with that grumpy old neighbor over there.
Julie, where were you and Keith?
We were here. We were here at home when we watched it, and I think it was just the two of us that watched it, and we cried a lot watching that. Yeah,
I remember we watched it recorded. We didn't watch it live. We had recorded it, and we watched it that same night. Like we were doing something, and we got home, and we would have otherwise went to bed, but we watched the show before going to bed for some reason. We must have
late. I can't remember either. There was something, and I was just checking like what day was that, so I could do some reverse figuring out
engineering.
But, yeah, it was late. It was late at night, and we watched
a Saturday,
it.
Right?
Yeah.
It was a Saturday.
Yeah. And how remarkable that the CBC pulled it off, doing commercial free. Somebody reminded me the other day, I forget who it was, but like this was during their Olympic coverage. The summer games were going on.
Right.
I want to say.
Really?
When I interviewed Ron McLean on the Top 40, he was in Brazil, and he's the one who threw to them. Remember, and it was, I forget what time it was in Brazil, but he had worked like a whole day, and he had this story that he wanted to say, and he flubbed it just a little bit. Nobody noticed that he flubbed it, but he knew, and it bothered him, like that he told me that. But yeah, that was a pretty remarkable thing that we were all able to do that, able to watch it together. Again, a connection. When my pizza guy came that night, there's like, oh, you guys are watching the hip thing, right? Like, so
everybody
cool.
Watched it. It's like it was like a Stanley Cup final game where there's nobody driving down the streets. Like everybody was watching it.
Yeah, absolutely.
And shout out to CBC for pulling that off. I thought they did a great job of it.
Agreed.
And the fact that, they didn't try anything funny like throwing commercials in there or cutting away or doing anything or editing it or anything like that. They just played it and let us enjoy it. Very thankful for them for that.
Let it be what it was.
Yes.
Rather than put any kind of spin or anything. Just let it be what it was.
That's right. Turn the cameras on and
let her go.
Fuck off.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Remember they were showing the band before they went out, and they had the set list on the walls behind them. I remember trying to look to see what was written on there.
Yeah.
That was maybe a little bit of a
Yes.
spoiler, but I couldn't see it all. But you could see a few of the songs.
I love it.
That's awesome.
You're a sleuth. I like that, Spencer.
People have been sleuthing a lot. We've talked to so many people who sleuth the set lists each and every night before the show to try and figure out what they're going to get, what obscure record they're going to get, which of the core records they're not going to get, because
right.
Like you have whole shows that have no Fully Completely, right? Or No Day for Night, and that's bananas. Anyway, gang, speaking of bananas, being 10 years removed from something so giant, I can't believe it's been 10 years. I really, truly cannot. And I know this will be a date that we continue to remember going forward, because it is so important to us. In this case, August 3rd, but it all leads east to Kingston on August 20th. And that's where we're going to keep going. In a couple days, we will be headed to Winnipeg, and that will be August 5th, 2016. And we're going to have a good deal of fun with that, a brand new panel and some brand new memories and experiences. Do you guys have anything you would like to plug? Spencer, we'll start with you.
I'd like to plug GEDfest. It's amazing. If you haven't heard of it, you've been under a rock. I don't know where you've been. Make sure you show up. Get on their website, gedfest.ca or .com, something like that. You'll find it. Yeah. Highly suggest it. I'm a big fan.
Excellent.
You're one of our new ambassadors, Spencer.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You got it.
Julie?
Yeah. Plug GEDfest. Plug just doing something.
You can't copy me, Julie. You have to come up with your own. You can't say GEDfest.
I'm not that creative. I can't think on the fly.
I just want to say I just want to plug JD and say thank you for doing this and prompting us to think about this and prompting me to remember this and prompting others to remember this. Right? I mean, I think that this is important part of Canadian cultural history, and as Canadians, we're always so bashful. We don't want to celebrate what's ours and what's great about us. And this is something that's great about us. And, it's people like you and shows like yours that help remind us of that. So yeah, thank you for this, JD.
I'll second that. Shout out to JD. There's, just even going through this the past few days, the amount of memories that have come back. I don't know if I would have done a deep dive and brought all of these memories back, through this period of time. You remember little portions, but not every little detail. And JD, you've just done a great job of helping us remember all of those and experiencing it again and reliving a lot of those moments. Yes. I don't know if I would have circled back and really thought about it that deep. So shout out to JD.
Yeah, I really appreciate that, guys. Yes. I really, truly appreciate that. Yeah. I'm very bashful and compliments sting, but I'm very, very appreciative. So thank you very much.
You're cool and qualified, JD. You are cool and qualified.
And if you are hanging around, my plug will be if you are around the Toronto area, the Greater Toronto area, on October 17th, head down to the legendary Horseshoe Tavern to see the fantastic Race 2 and help raise money for the Campfire Circle and the Murphy Family Fund for Precision Pancreatic Oncology. So there's that. Tickets are on sale now. You can find them on facebook.com/GEDfestYYZ. So, folks, I want to thank you very much for joining me tonight. This has meant a great deal to me to get this far. We're over the Rockies now, headed to Winnipeg, and it's going to be, did we have fun? Julie, I
Yeah,
fun.
tons of
Did we
fun.
have fun?
It was
I was
All right.
scared.
Yeah.
I'm going to admit I was nervous, but I did it. My first podcast. Thank you.
Oh, I would have never known. Shouldn't have said that. Anyway, folks, be well, stay swell, and pick up your shit.
Thanks for listening. This has been a presentation of the Tragically Hip podcast series. For more information and to follow us, visit home.tthpods.com. If you'd like to reach JD, send an email to jd@tthpods.com.